Yo, what's good everybody? I'm your boy Jadiro, and this is my sweaty Hoda build for Barbarian in Season 3. Let's get it. And the first things we're going to dive right into is the fundamental aspects. And the first aspect I want to go over here is the Edge Master's aspect. And we're going to put this on our two-handed weapon. And the Edge Master's aspect increases the damage of all our skills based on the availability of our primary resource. And we will receive the maximum benefit while we have full primary resource. So just a great damage multiplier to all our skills. And you can unlock the Edge Master's aspect by completing the Old Stones dungeon in Scott's Glen. And the second fundamental aspect we're going over today is the aspect of Limitless Rage. And we're putting the aspect of Limitless Rage on our two-handed weapon. And the aspect of Limitless Rage grants our core ability increased damage for each point of fury we generate while at maximum fury. Another huge damage multiplier to our core ability. And you can unlock the aspect of Limitless Rage by completing Chapter 3 in your seasonal journey. And lastly, the last fundamental aspect we're going to talk about today that we're putting on our one-handed weapon is the aspect of Ancestral Force. And this allows our core ability, the Hammer of Ancients, to quake outward, and its damage is increased by 14%. And you can unlock the aspect of Ancestral Force by completing the Sunken Ruins in Scott's Glen. Alright guys, that's the fundamental aspects. Let's move on to the defensive aspects next. And the first defensive aspect is the aspect of Disobedience. And the aspect of Disobedience gives us a flat armor increase based on any form of damage we deal. And as you know, armor reduces the physical damage we take. And you can unlock the aspect of Disobedience by completing the Halls of the Damned dungeon in Kyrgyzstan. And the last defensive aspect we're going over today is the Juggernaut's aspect. The Juggernaut's aspect gives us a flat increase to our armor. However, it increases the cooldown of our evade by 100%. And we're going to put the Juggernaut's aspect on our chest piece. And you can unlock the Juggernaut's aspect by completing Slayer in the seasonal journey. However, I suggest you do Nightmare dungeons and vaults to get this aspect. So that does it for all the defensive aspects. Let's move on to the dropped only aspects next. And by dropped only, I mean you can only get these aspects by loot you receive in Sanctuary. And the first drop only aspect I want to go over here is the aspect of Ancestral Charge. And we're going to put this on our gloves. This aspect not only makes our charge do more damage, but it also increases the radius of the cast of charge. And the last drop only aspect I want to talk about here is the Brawler's aspect. And the Brawler's aspect reads, enemies damaged by kick or charge will explode if they are killed within 2 seconds, dealing an AoE damage effect to surrounding enemies. So basically, if the first charge doesn't get them, if you kill the enemy within 2 seconds, it creates an AoE effect that does a crazy amount of damage. And we're going to put the Brawler's aspect on our other one-handed weapon. Alright guys, that does it for all the drop only aspects. I'm going to show you the sweatiest uniques you can get to make the damage of this build really pop. So for the demonstration of this build today, I won't use any of the uniques I'm about to list next. I want to show you guys that you can do this build without getting the uniques, but if you really want to and you can get your hands on these uniques, it'll really make the damage of this build pop. And the first unique is the Banished Lord's Talisman. The Banished Lord's Talisman will increase the damage of our core ability to nutty proportions. Next, we have the Ring of the Red Führer. The Ring of the Red will guarantee that our next Hoda or Hammer of the Ancients will critically strike. And it will also deal increased critical strike damage. Next, we have the Tusk Helm of Jay the Mighty. The Helm of TOJ will give us a chance to become enraged and increase our damage. And it will also give us Fury regeneration and increased cooldown. If there's one you're hunting for, this is the one you want the most. And lastly, we have Tybalt's Will. And this will increase our damage while we're unstoppable. And we will also gain 50 of our primary resource while unstoppable. And the two abilities that give us unstoppable are Charge and Rallying Cry. Alright guys, that does it for all the fundamental, defensive, drop only, and sweaty uniques. Let's move on to the primary and secondary skills next. Now for this part of the video, I'll go over all the primary skills and then the secondary skills. So first off, we're going Lunging Strike, then Enhanced Lunging Strike. Don't worry too much about this guys because we use it just for mobility. Next to our core abilities, we're going Hammer of the Ancients, Enhanced Hammer of the Ancients, and then Furious Hammer of the Ancients. Now Hammer of the Ancients increases our resource regeneration, and it also increases its own damage. Now down to the defensive skills, we're going to go Rallying Cry and Enhanced Rallying Cry. Now Rallying Cry grants us Unstoppable. Next we're going to go to Challenging Shout, and then Enhanced Challenging Shout. Now Challenging Shout gives us damage reduction and increases our maximum life. Now down to our brawling skills, we're going to go Charge because it's a must take. Then we're going to go Enhanced Charge, and then Power Charge. Now Charge can stun enemies and reduce its own cooldown. Perfect. Then we're going to go War Cry and Enhanced War Cry. Now War Cry increases the damage we deal and grants us Berserking. Now we're going to skim right past Weapon Mastery and Ultimate Skills. However, guys, if you want, I see a lot of people going Wrath of the Berserker. So if you feel so inclined and you don't want to take Lunging Stike, you can go Wrath of the Berserker. However, you will have to take points out of your secondary skills, but I recommend taking points out of charge if you want to go Berserker. And then lastly, for the primary skills, we're moving down to the key passives, and we're going to take Unbridled Rage. And Unbridled Rage will increase the damage of our core ability, Hammer of the Ancients, by 135%. However, it will make it cost 100% more Fury. Now, if you're more interested in speed runs, I suggest you go Unconstrained. Unconstrained gives you a slight damage increase, but it also gives you a movement speed increase. So if you're looking just to speed farm, I suggest you go this build with Unconstrained. And guys, before we move on here, don't forget to dump all your extra points into Charge and Hammer of the Ancients. Alright guys, well that's all the primary skills. Let's move on to the secondary skills next. And we're going to work our way backwards here, and we're going to put a full 3 into Brute Force. And Brute Force increases the damage we do while overpowering when using a two-handed weapon. Next, we're going to dump a full 3 into Heavy-Handed, and while using a two-handed weapon, we deal increased critical strike damage. Up to our weapon mastery, we're going to dump a full 3 into Pit Fighter. Pit Fighter increases our damage we deal to close enemies, and reduces the damage we take from distant enemies. Like I always say, 2 birds, 1 stone. And then we're going to dump a full 3 into Slaying Strike. This increases the damage we do to injured enemies. And injured enemies are enemies below 35% of their health. And now we're going to dump 1 into Thick Skin, so that each time we take direct damage, we gain 0.4% maximum life as Fortified. But what we're really after here is dumping a full 3 into Counter Offensive. And while we have Fortify, over 50% of our maximum life, we deal 12% increased damage. Now let's move up into our brawling skills, guys. We're going to dump a full 3 into Swiftness for mobility. Then a full 3 into Aggressive Resistance to gain 12% damage reduction while berserking. Then a full 3 into Prolific Fury, so that while we're berserking, our Fury regeneration is increased by 18%. And then we're going to dump a full 3 into Battle Fervor, so when a brawling skill damages at least one enemy, we gain berserking for 3 seconds. And the main brawling skill we're talking about here is Charge. Then we're going to dump a full 3 into Booming Voice to increase the duration of our shout skills. Then we're going to move up to our defensive skills, and we're going to dump 1 into Imposing Presence. And this increases our maximum life by 6%. But what we're really after here is dumping a full 3 into Martial Vigor. And Martial Vigor gives us damage reduction against elites increased by 12%. Alright guys, so that does it for all our primary and secondary skills. Let's move on to that Paragon board next. Alright guys, still working on my Paragon board here, so I'm just going to go over all the rare glyphs that I'm currently using. And the first one I want to go over here is Undaunted. And what you want to do is level this up to 15 as soon as possible. And Undaunted gives us damage reduction while we fortify. Huge. And the second glyph I want to talk about here is Territorial. Again, try and level this up to 15. And what Territorial does is it reduces the damage we take from close enemies by 10%. And the third glyph I want to talk about here is one of the most important, Exploit. And what Exploit gives us is when an enemy is damaged by us, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. However, this can't happen more than every 20 seconds per enemy, but making them vulnerable will increase our damage output. And the fourth rare glyph I want to talk about here is Martial. And Martial gives us, after casting a shout skill, the active cooldown of our other non-shout skills is reduced by 4 seconds. And like I always say, this is huge with Power Charge, because Power Charge reduces the cooldown of Charge already. So with it stacking with Martial is every time we use a shout, we should have Charge off a cooldown. And the last rare glyph I want to talk about here is Ire. And Ire grants this damage reduction while berserking. As you can see guys, I take a lot of damage reduction because as you start to push those higher tiers of vaults and nightmare dungeons, this is very important. Alright guys, that does it for the Paragon board. Let's move on to the Barbarian Expertise next. So as for the Barbarian Expertise, go Two-Handed Axe Expertise. And this will increase the damage we deal to vulnerable enemies. That's pretty much it for Expertise. Let's move on to the gems next. Alright, so as for gems, in your armor slots, always go rubies, as it increases your maximum life. And as for weapons, go rubies as well, as it increases your overpower damage. Now for jewelry, I happen to switch it up because I need specific resistances for each. My goal was to max out my resistances and I came pretty close, except for poison resistance and shadow resistance. At this late in the game, this is probably what you want to be putting into your jewelry. However, if you're lacking in the armor department, you could always put skulls. Alright guys, that does it for gems. Let's move on to that Seneschal next. So for our governing stones, we're going to go Flash of Adrenaline and Tempest. Flash of Adrenaline will give us a flat damage multiplier. And for the tuning stones, we're going Tactical Support to reduce the cooldown of our supported skill. And we're going Duration Support to increase the duration of our supported skill. Now for the third stone, you can put whatever you like, but I suggest when you get Genesis, that's the one you go for Flash of Adrenaline. Now moving on to Tempest, this actually makes it feel like the Seneschal is doing damage. That's why I go Tempest. You could also go Firefly for more single target damage. And as for the tuning stones for Tempest, I'm going Swift Support. This gives Tempest a 40% attack speed bonus. And then I'm going Resource Support, so that every time the Tempest deals damage, we get our primary resource back. And then finally for Tempest, I'm going Safeguard Support. And this allows Tempest to give us damage reduction every time it's used. And if and when you get Evernight, you can replace it with Resource Support. Alright guys, that does it for the Seneschal. I usually do a wave clear and single target damage next. However, today I'm just going to do a high tier vault speed run to demonstrate how this build works. Alright guys, one thing to note here is I'm not using any uniques, and we're going to do a tier 80 vault run. Alright guys, here we are in the vault, and my nemesis showed up, the Stormbane's Wrath. If you guys see this on your vault keys, just get rid of it, like salvage it, because this is so annoying, especially in the last room. But here we are. Anyways, I'm going to try and get through this. I'm going to try and get through this as fast as possible, and give you guys a brief demonstration in the meantime. So let's move up to the statue here. Let's get 5 stacks, so I'm a little bit, just to be safe. So we're going to charge up proper skills. Make sure we have our shouts, make sure we have our shouts up at all times, because our shouts are very important to reset the cooldown of our charge here. And that's predominantly how we get through this the fastest. And if we ever get stuck, we can start dropping our hammer. Hammer of the Ancients does a lot of damage. It definitely helps clear the waves faster too. I find Upheaval kind of does the same thing, but I like how it's a little bit easier to hit everything with Hammer of the Ancients and AoE. And I remember you guys saying, do Hoda, do Hoda. So here it is, man. I'm a man of my word. As soon as I hit level 100, I started working on this build. So I really hope you guys appreciate this video. And I really hope we can do this in one run. Last editing. Break the 4th wall. Here we go. Keep going. Wait till we get to that last room. So the key here is at high level tiers, guys, for me, is just try not to stop. But at this point, experience doesn't matter. And this is probably the hardest. Okay, this is where it's hard. So I suggest here, in this particular room, you kind of have to clear the whole room. Because if anything gets you while you're trying to get that key, especially surrounded by those traps, especially see how Stormbane Wrath is just kind of chilling there, waiting for me to die. So I kind of want to clear everything before I go there, and I kind of have to sneak now. Even these little guys, man, can pop you. I didn't even check what the... Okay, there we go. We got a little bit of grace here. No, pop the chip. There we go. Perfect. So that's what you kind of want to do. You don't want to get stuck. You don't want to get stuck in that room with Stormbane's Wrath and having to get the key like that. That really just sucks. Anyways, back to the show here. Oh, no, not what I wanted to hit. Oh, worst thing to do, eh? Holy. That was it. That was almost it for me. Hitting the wrong button there. Alright. Not what you want to do is hit the wrong button. Alright, here we go. We're in the room. Wish me luck, everyone. So this is the fire room, eh? Okay, so we kind of want to stay in these corners then. But we can't because Stormbane's Wrath is here. So let's go to the next corner. Stormbane's Wrath is just annoying. As you can see, it's just going to follow us around the room. So I'm going to make sure these corners are safe. Just going to make sure these corners are safe. Hit that hammer. Ooh. That lightning damage, there's freaky damage. One run. Come on, we can do this. Here we go. It's going to run around the room. Okay, the boss is up. Now the goal is just avoid Stormbane's Wrath and wait till our charge is up. And maybe we can hit the charge and then do the Hammer of the Ancients, right? There's a lot of damage flying around, so I'm gonna pop that, hit that Stormbane's, not Stormbane's, Hammer of the Ancients. I got stuck there. It wouldn't let me do my hammer there. I'm gonna drop it there. Boom! One shot them. Nice. We did it, guys. One shot. Stormbane's Wrath is still there, but let's see the loot. Give me the loot. Perfect. Pretty easy run, man. Loot fountain, go off. Boom! Too sick. Alright guys, that does it for the vault speedrun and the build demonstration. Let's move on to the build summary next. So as for the aspects, you guys can go back to the beginning of the video and I'll chapter them for you. As for the skills, we're going Lunging Stike, Hammer of the Ancients, Rallying Cry, Challenging Shout, War Cry, and Good Old Charge. Barbarian Expertise, we're going Two-Handed Axe Expertise. As for the Paragon board and the rare glyphs in no particular order, you're going to want Undaunted, Territorial, Exploit, Martial, and Ire. As for the gems in your armor, go Rubies, and for the weapons, do the same. And as for the jewelry, if you're lacking armor, go Skulls, or if you're lacking in resistances, make sure you find the specific gem that suits that resistance. As for the Seneschal, you guys want Flash of Adrenaline or Tempest. And you can go Firefly if you want more single target damage. Well guys, that does it for the Sweaty Hoda build. I hope you enjoyed. And guys, don't worry about liking and subscribing. If you enjoyed today's video or brought you any kind of value, that's all I could ask for. Thank you so much. And guys, if there's anything you want to mention about the build or you think there's anything I can improve on, feel free to let me know. Guys, I'm going to start grinding this Barbarian some more and doing some more off-meta builds. Also, let me know if there's any specific class that you want to see builds for. Well, that's it for me. Peace and love, everyone. I'm your boy Jadiro. Sign out for now. Peace.